Hi everyone, my name's Alex, aka aNotioneer. I've been a Notion user for just over 2 years now, and today I'm going to talk about arguably Notion's most powerful feature, which is databases. And I'm going to be sharing some tips about ways that you can make the most of databases and save yourself hopefully quite a bit of time when you come to actually use the feature. So databases let you store information in a consistent format. They let you sort and filter your data. You can view data in databases in a variety of different formats, like a calendar view, a board view, a list view, etc. And you can aggregate the information in number columns to come up with powerful reports. Lastly, they enable you to share copies of your data throughout your workspace to make it really easy to access and edit wherever you are in Notion. But obviously, there are some downsides to databases as well. So they can be a little bit slow and clunky to use. The speed of Notion search has improved a lot over the last 6 months. So looking up records now in relation columns is no longer really an issue. But if you're used to just using a single page or spreadsheet to record all of your information, then having to navigate between lots of different records and store all of your information in a variety of different places can feel a little bit alien. And obviously jumping between different pages in order to capture that information can be a little bit strange too. And lastly, if you need to add a page to a database, having to fill out lots of different columns in order to kind of create that page and fill it out properly can be a little bit time consuming. So I'm going to share some tips on how you can avoid kind of all of those different challenges and save yourself some time. I know that some people will be starting to use databases or won't have used databases very much so far. So I'll start from the basics and then I'll get on to the more creative ideas, including sort of highlighting some of the more hidden features that can save you time when you're using Notion databases in just a bit. So basically, when you're in a corporate context, whenever you're creating a list of items and you want to record particular information about each item in that list, then you should create a database as a general rule. Not all the time, but most of the time. So you can think of items in databases as a list of items with particular attributes. And you can store information in a consistent format in the columns of a database. That's what you should aim to do. But if you need to write in sentences in order to record the information, then adding a column to a database probably isn't quite the right thing to do. So imagine you're using a database to create, to keep a record of a set of top trumps cards. These cards, there's a variety of different types of top trumps cards. You can have some for football players, basketball players, film stars, or vehicles. But basically the format is you've got a list of different stats about each person, each footballer in this case, in the collection. And the idea of the game is each player gets given a random set of cards, and then they go through their set of cards and they try and pick out a stat which is better than the stat that the other player has for their particular card that they're holding at that time. So for example, if I had Raheem Sterling here and I thought that trophies was going to be the better stat, I would pick that out. And if the other player had Andy Robertson with 4 trophies, I would win a point. If the other player had Eden Hazard, then they would win a point. So if we wanted to capture the details about these top trumps cards in a database, then it would look something like this. We've just got the name column where we're storing the names of the players, and then you've got these additional number columns in here to capture all of the different rankings. But obviously, because these are Notion databases, we're able, and the information is in a consistent format, we're able to sort this database view, for example. So here, this is sorted based on the number of caps that each player has. So the number played for their team. You can see Eden Hazard has played for his team the most, Raheem Sterling, and then Andy Robertson. And again, we can switch to a different view of this same data just by switching to a gallery view here. So now we can see the photos of those players and the date when they were born, or the year when they were born. If you wanted to capture information like their biography, for example, which is obviously not going to be in a consistent format, it's going to be far too long to store in a column, then you would want to probably capture that inside the database page. So that might look something a little bit like this. Okay. So then what if you wanted to record information about teams? Obviously, teams have a completely different set of attributes that you'd want to record about them. So then you'd want to create a new database for the teams. Here we've got the 3 teams that those players that we just saw play for: flags, population, and trophies. So that's nice and straightforward. But if you wanted to capture information about another collection of top trumps cards, like vehicles, for example, even though these are top trumps cards and they have a set of stats, you would want to use a different database to record the details about the vehicles because the attributes are completely different to the attributes that the football players have. So the advantages of creating separate databases like this is it keeps your page layouts when you open up a page inside a database nice and clean. You have a lot more flexibility in terms of your data structure, and you're able to take advantage of relations and roll-ups, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. So next up, what if you want to link together the information about these players and their teams? If you were doing this in a spreadsheet, then you would end up having to add lots of different columns to the spreadsheet in order to capture the team's details alongside the details for the players right here. So ultimately, you end up duplicating lots of information like the name of the team and their flag. And then if you wanted to change the population of one of these countries, for example, then you would need to look up all of the players that play for that particular country and update the populations. If you accidentally missed out one of those players, then you'd have mismatched information, which would be quite confusing for anybody else who was looking at the spreadsheet. And if you wanted to do a calculation like work out how many players there are in each team squad, then you would need to use a sum product formula or a pivot table in order to do that calculation. So that's obviously a little bit clunky and time consuming. And this is where relations come in. So instead, what we're going to do in Notion is we've got the players database here again. And now in this view, there's a couple more columns that I've added in here. So we can turn this team column into a relation and look up the teams database just there. And what you'll see in just a second is that automatically creates a link in the other database back to the players database. So we can just call that players. And now that we've got that there, if we just populate this column, so we want to put these 3 players in the Belgium team, these 3 in the Scottish team, and these 3 in the English team, just like that. That should be showing my keystrokes actually. So let me just, okay, I'm not sure what's happening there. Sorry about that. So now we've got the teams in there. We can also add a roll-up column in here and just display the team's flag, just like that. So now you're starting to kind of feed data backwards and forwards between the 2 databases. And if we wanted to calculate the number of players inside each team, then we can also do that here. So we can look up players and we can just add a count of the unique values just like that. And then if we wanted to calculate the average age of the players in these teams, again, we can just add a roll up in here, and we can look at the age column and just calculate the median average there. Let me just stop and check the chat very quickly just to make sure you haven't got any questions. Yeah, so Dustin, what I was doing there, I think what you were asking about was how I was adding the teams in this column. Perfect. So yeah, you should be seeing my keystrokes, but anyway, basically what I'm doing is Command C to copy Belgium there, and then I'm just navigating up and down the column using my arrow keys and using Command V or Control V and Control C on Windows to paste in those values. So in order to do that in a table, you just need to click on the column, then hit Escape, and then you can copy and paste from there. So I hope that was helpful. Okay, next up, we're going to switch from looking at the top trumps cards databases to a CRM or customer relationship management system. So you can have a personal CRM for things like keeping track of your friends and family and when their birthdays are and that kind of thing, their contact details. But we'll look at the my advanced CRM template, which replicates the structure of Salesforce. And this is basically the system that I use to manage my business. So here we're looking at accounts, which are companies, contacts, which are people, and then opportunities, which we use to track the sales processes that we're managing whenever we speak to a potential client. So if I add in an opportunity in this database and also an account and contact for a new company that we're going to speak to, I'll call this opportunity key group. I'll make myself the owner of the opportunity, so I'm responsible for it. We're hoping that we can close this sale pretty quickly by the end of next week. And I'll make this unqualified for now, so we're not sure whether or not the person could use our service. Then I will link this opportunity record to a new account, which we'll also call the gear group. And for the contact, we'll just call, or maybe we'll just use Rachel Smith as our contact, and we'll add her in there. So that was pretty straightforward. That's all I needed to do there. And we've linked our two databases together, the 2 pages from those different databases together already, so that's great. But what if we want to see the details about the records which are linked to this opportunity now? So if we wanted to see information about the accounts. So if we had multiple different accounts linked to this one record, we'd need to click into that column, spot the right one, and then scroll horizontally in order to see those details. And if we wanted to update information about this particular record, we need to click on that record there and add in information about the industry, for example, and the owner. So that's obviously kind of taken us into the accounts database now, and we're a little bit out of context. We need to go out of there and back into the opportunity and do that same process over and over again if we're adding information about contacts. So the better alternative is to use linked database views. And what I've done when I set up this template initially was, rather than adding views to the accounts and contacts databases when I first created them, I created linked database views which give me a synced copy of these databases and put them sort of in my workspace already. So the advantage of doing this is if you use this kind of approach, you can customize these views to make them look exactly the way that you want them. And then whenever you need to use a copy of whenever you need to see a copy of these databases elsewhere in your workspace, you can just copy these linked database views. And when you paste them into a new page, you'll have exactly the same layout for the columns. You'll have all of the same views that you're used to working with, so it'll feel a lot more familiar to you. So if I just copy these 2 database views there, go back into this page and paste them into the body of the page right there. And I'll just use, I I'll just check the chat very quickly while I'm doing that. So we're talking about relations and rollups. That's awesome. Rollups, yeah, Marjorie, can be used for counts and aggregation to display information from other databases. So that could be the flags that I showed you, or if you had a list of different people in a column, then you can show the unique people that are kind of linked to a particular record that is connected to your page. So thanks a lot to Christine as well for helping out in the chat there. So if we open up this page in a full page view now, and let me just refresh this because it's obviously a little bit cut off. All right, that's not gonna work too well, but that's fine. Now we've got our accounts and contacts databases in here. We can filter these so that we only see the records which are linked to this particular opportunity. So filter that there. And that right there. And now we've got a much easier way to see all of the details about the records in these databases and obviously update them as we go. On top of that, there's a kind of hidden autocomplete feature in Notion, which is really useful. So now that we've applied this filter where we've filtered this linked view to only show us accounts which are linked to the key group opportunity, if we add another contact, actually, it's probably a better example, to this database, so we'll call this Luke Jones, then you'll see here this record has been automatically linked to the key group opportunity. And the reason that happens is Notion will automatically apply the filters that you have applied to a linked database view whenever you add a page inside one of these linked database views here. So sorry, let me explain that again. Whenever you add a page to a filtered view like this, Notion will automatically apply or populate the properties that you filtered so that they match the filter criteria for you. So that basically works as a kind of autocomplete. Okay, but obviously you don't want to go through that kind of process every time you create a new page in your opportunities database. So the next step would be to copy these linked database views again, and this time we'll set up a page template for our opportunities. So there's a couple of different ways to do this, but the easiest way is just to add a new template by clicking the down arrow next to the new button just there and clicking new template. We'll call this new opportunity template. You can fill in some of the columns that you want to complete as part of when the template is applied just there. So there will be the default values when that template is used. And then we can just paste these linked database views in here. The other thing I'm going to do is just set this page view to, which is something that I do whenever I use database views inside a page inside a database, so that you can see all of the columns nice and easily. And then what I'll do is I'll update the filters here and we'll make them self-referencing. So this is another hidden feature in Notion. And what you do here is just select the name of the template which you're editing when you're adding these views to the page, just like that. And we'll do the same thing here. And then when I go back to my opportunity, if I just delete these views there and apply this template again, you'll see that even though I haven't actually edited these filters at all, Notion has done a little bit of magic behind the scenes to automatically link this page to the page that the template was applied to. So that's automatically filtered these two linked database views to only show us the accounts that are linked to the key group opportunity. And obviously that's really useful, especially when you have lots of linked database views inside a page template, and you have multiple views for those linked databases. So that can save you a ton of time. Lastly, what if you have multiple relation columns like this in your linked database views? So you don't want to have to fill out the account, which is always going to be key group when you add a new contact to these database views. So one more thing that I tend to do when I create a template like this is I will go into the contacts linked database, for example, and just add in a filter here for account, and I'll leave that blank. And then if we go back to the opportunity page again for key group, and I'll just delete these linked views and reapply that page template. Once that fills in, now all I need to do is go into here and select the key group account. And I hadn't actually updated that column for the two contacts that were in there already. But again, we're just using the force filters or autocomplete feature in order to populate the account column whenever we add a new contact in here. So if you just do that for each of the pages that you create, that can save you even more time and just make your life a lot easier. The way that this works is when you haven't selected a particular account in this filter, it won't have any impact at all on what you see in the linked database view. So you don't need to worry about adding filters like that in the page templates and just leaving them empty. You can do that, and then you'll be able to update them once you've applied the page template, and that will make your life a lot easier as well. So lastly, I just wanted to show you how you can create dedicated pages to manage particular processes in your workspaces as well. And this is a page that I've set up to manage leads. So these are inquiries that we've had from people outside our company about using our service. And we are going to want to check whether or not they can actually use our service at all, because if not, we obviously wouldn't want to contact them again. And in order to carry out those checks, we're going to arrange or schedule a set of qualification calls to reach out to them and discuss their requirements. So we'll need to schedule those. And then if we find out that they do need to use our service, we would create opportunities to track the sales process from that point onwards. So obviously, first of all, we've got the list of inquiries at the top of the page here. So these are the ones that haven't been assigned to anyone at all at the moment. They don't have an owner. And these might have fed in via the new Notion API from our website straight into a Notion database. And then we have added them into our contacts database so that we have a single database that we can use to keep track of everyone that we're speaking to, whether we know that they can use our service or not. But in order to distinguish between the people who we haven't spoken to yet and the people that we have and can use our service, we've got this simple lead status formula here, which just checks whether or not there is an opportunity that is linked to this particular contact page. And if there is, then we will display the status of qualified just here. But if not, the lead status will still be lead. So these are our new inquiries. And you can see here, we've got this board view, which is showing us all of the members of our sales team and how many leads they've got assigned to them at the moment. There's a range of different ways that you can manage this type of process, but let's assume that we want to give our new leads to the salespeople who don't have any leads at the moment, because that gives them an incentive to call all of their new inquiries quickly and either qualify or disqualify them so that they're removed from this list. So it looks like James has got some spare time to work on these leads. So we can just drag and drop our contacts from this database straight into this view. So it's exactly the same database. These are just two linked views of the contacts database. But again, we're using the filter functionality in a slightly different form this time. So Notion has automatically updated the owner column contacts to James because I've dragged these leads into his column. Now we're ready to schedule calls for our leads. So we can just scroll down here, and these are all leads that we've got which don't have calls scheduled for them at the moment. And again, we're going to use the autocomplete functionality here when we go to create events rather than using a page template, just because we want to add the name of the call as well as these other details when we go to apply, when we go to create these events. And actually, you wouldn't be able to fill in the start and end dates as well using a page template, or at least not dynamically if you're using a page template. So this functionality enables us to automatically set the start and end date to today and the name of these events to qualification call. So if we click the new button just there, we can look up Amy Jones as our contact and then schedule a call for her. We can do the same for Chris Edwards and Mike Vickery, etc. And actually, they should be excluding the people from that database. So let me just check. Not true. Okay, not sure what's happening there, but anyway, you get the idea. Now we can adjust the schedule for these calls if we want to. So these have both been scheduled for 12 p.m. 12 a.m. today because there's no actual time in there. But if we use this timeline view, again, this is just showing us another view of the events database, and we can drag and drop these calls in order to reschedule them. So we can put this one down here at 5 p.m. And this one maybe a little bit later than that, just like that. And then if we want to edit the duration of these calls, we can just use those handles on the side of the call page and drag that out. And when we go into this page now, you can see this is scheduled between 5:15 and 6:30 p.m., just like that. So using different database views creatively like this can just make your life so much easier when you're working your way through a process that has the same set of steps each time. And if you want to, just for good measure, you can see all of the calls that have been scheduled in this calendar view here, and obviously drag and drop them to reschedule them for the next day if you want to. All right, and actually we're 5 minutes over my allocated time now, so I guess we should wrap up. But thanks a lot for joining the session. Really hope that was useful. And yeah, follow me on Twitter. I'm aNotioneer everywhere, Instagram as well. And yeah, hope to share some more content with you very soon.